And we're live. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Appreciate y'all joining us today. Let's see, we've got Henrik, Ingrid, Rise from the Grave. That's a new one. Blackberry Seaman Retention. Good to see you. Kersalan, D, Kevin, Elias, Fernando, Saren.
Blackberry semen retention. You're
Yeah,
going for it. You're
yeah.
going for it.
He's going all the
Uh,
way. He's got a lot of good
Amen.
research on the semen retention and what it can do and Um, yeah, so it's a good source of information for sure.
yeah,
So
share your
that's the way.
knowledge in the comments because I've just been reading a bunch of books. I just searched like best books for semen retention and a bunch came up. So I ordered some from the library, Cupid's Poisoned Arrow and the Multi-Orgasmic Man. Like I really want to learn about this. Apparently couples fall apart the more they orgasm and it lasts like 2
Wow.
weeks, the effects. And so obviously you have sex a couple times a week and your relationship is screwed. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Shit.
just shifting towards that. Yeah, that's that Kundalini rising where we hold it and it goes up the spine and we've been taught everything's been a lie and sex how we've been taught how to have sex is a complete lie as well. It's just amazing how much they do it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
who knows?
yeah, so we've got Kasey and myself here again today. Marie's not going to be able to join us. And then we've got a very special guest, Nathan. Nathan Von Dutch is his YouTube channel, and Nathan's been paving the way. Really I see you as kind of having taken John Rose's work and compiling it with a few others and really making it such a digestible way to jump into juice feasting to where it's a much
Oh, thank you.
more approachable, much less daunting and everything's just broken down step by step. So as I said in my post, if you're looking for a good guide on juice feasting, look no further than this man's channel because he's got a three-part series where he breaks down everything. Literally every part of that journey, what you need to do, how you need to do it. Um, and so, yeah, it's a great source of information. So thank you for joining us today, Nathan, and thank you for all you've done. And do you want to give a few minutes to give an introduction on yourself and anything else you'd like to share?
Sure, sure. Well, thank you. That's a big compliment. Like I always watch Sean Rose, so hearing that is great. And yeah, just thank you for having me. I always wanted to talk to you guys, both your channels. I've watched them. I watched Casey's stuff like for years now. Quite an interesting journey always. So yeah, fun talking to you now. Like it's just nice fun. So me, yeah. Well, I'm 28 years old. I'm from the Netherlands. Used to be very sick. Used to have a lot of issues, and then I discovered raw foods through John Rose. That solved a lot of my issues. And then John Rose always was, masquerading that juice fasting stuff in his videos, and I was getting curious. So I tried that. That gave me a lot of benefits. So I just wanted to spread that message, and it got me to such highs I could never even believe. So yeah, leaving behind that entire thing of the Netherlands and everything related to my past and everything was very interesting. The entire journey, especially with the juice fasting, everything and the raw foods, and it's been such a journey still, and still learning every single day. So it's really cool, and especially like reaching out to all kinds of people across the world. Like that I think is the best thing about it. Like I talk to so many different people, I meet so many different people. Been to like 3 different continents now thanks to juicing and everything. So it's just an amazing journey in general.
Yeah, it truly is. It's just to embrace that health as that, we as we've mentioned many times on this show and other shows, like health has to be that foundational step. We have to
Yeah,
we have to
definitely.
start there before we can go anywhere else. And um, so that's why it's so important to have a solid foundation and to have people to look to who have kind of had more experience on this journey and do things like this. And that's one thing that I
Yeah.
know Nathan presents himself as is being that support to provide and to help guide in that journey. And just as we all are, we're all kind of going at our own pace and discovering things as we go. But it's really beautiful when we can connect with others and share that because then we can kind of
Yeah.
bypass some of those challenging hurdles that so we don't have to experience every pitfall necessarily. We can if we want to, but we don't have to.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah. Well, that's the reason I started my YouTube channel actually, because I wanted to connect with people because I knew no one who was doing it and everybody ridiculed me for doing it. So just wanted to connect with people. And funnily enough, eventually even John Rose started watching and commenting, so it was pretty funny. But
Nice.
I think the biggest thing from like a health journey in general is that you really get to know yourself. After years of running away from yourself, right? You get to know yourself, you start to discover all things about yourself. And then we want to share that. Like a lot of people have not yet discovered much about themselves, so they'll try to attack you for it or whatever. I think this journey in itself is pretty hilarious too. I can laugh about it now, but yeah.
Yeah.
Just it's just interesting in general, like everything about health. But when you start discovering about health, you discover a whole bucket load of other things that start kicking in your door. Like, hey, there's more truth here. There's more this. There's more that. And before you know it, like everybody thinks you're mentally ill or something when you talk about things, which is also pretty funny. So, but now, like in the beginning, I would just get frustrated about things, but now I can do nothing but laugh. Now it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, when we start to realize just how far gone organized society is in this deception, the more we pull away from it to
Yeah.
go towards the truth, the more that we're sort of self-ostracized. But it has to be that way if we're ever going to shift everyone back towards that truth as our foundation. Then we've got to, somebody's got to be the leader, somebody's got to pave the way, and I'm happy to do it. But yeah.
Me
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
it's so interesting, the journey of health. Even if you actively try to ignore all the spiritual stuff or all your inner work, like it's going to come out eventually until you can no longer hide from it. And that's the point where I feel like that last show we did was so helpful. Like it just put everything into perspective for me. I'm like, okay, other people are going through this too. It's an actual hurdle. Like we got to cross this path. Like you're meeting yourself. It's like, do you want to dance or you want to fight? Like you got to just break through some stuff. And I'm doing that now. Like I'm no longer doing some of the things I was disappointed in. Like I watch UFC. I was not paying for it though. I'm downloading it. So I'm paying for it now at least. I feel better about that. I'm contributing to the fighters. It's like, okay, still a terrible thing watching people punch each other in the face. I don't know why I like it, but I like doing that. And I'm reading more. I'm not wasting time on material stuff. I'm selling off things and meditating a bit, and things are good. Things are good. So it's just going to push you. Keep on drinking your juice and you'll get there and your life will be changed. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, yeah. Do you want to give an update on your juice feast?
Yeah,
Because
man.
you're,
What day are you on now?
Yeah, we're on day 87
wow.
and
Yeah.
it was going to be 90 and I'm still thinking I'm not done here. And that's like, I have some questions for Nathan, how to know if you're done, but from what I'm still releasing, like we're not even close to done here. So it's like, I had this goal 90 days. All right, go to the distance, but there's no way like 90 days, I'm still going to be releasing these sulfur things and chemicals and things that smell like hair removal cream. You ever had that? Like, why?
I had that. Yeah, I had that.
So it's
The
like
demons.
I'm still going on it, and it'd be awesome to. So I'm gonna keep going. I ordered Dr. Morse's GI broom, and I'm waiting for that, but it's taken forever to show up here. So I think I'm just gonna keep going. Maybe 120 days is my next goal, but like
Yeah.
how long is this going to take? It takes a while, doesn't it? Like much longer than we
Yeah, it
think.
does. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have like an idea in your mind where you were like, I'll probably be clean by that point?
I thought so. Like I thought long before this, I'd have perfect skin on day 35-ish and like everything was going to be great. But like now I see it. I see why I used to struggle so much just eating like raw till
Yeah.
4 type of thing. Just I'm eating lots of fruit. I'm detoxing, but having lots of starch at night. And like, why aren't I really healing? This has taken forever. It was like 10 years. And I'm not really, I healed most of my stuff, but I still have all these lingering symptoms. And now I see it on this
Yeah.
juice fast. It's like, okay, this is the fastest way to go. And it still takes a while. So you just have to have faith and patience. You'll get there. And
Yeah.
things are,
You'll get there
you can
eventually,
get to a respectable level of health pretty quickly, but it's just the last couple things that you might be working on takes a while. Takes a while. It's
Yeah.
a slow journey.
When even
I like,
the I'm sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
you can go ahead too if you want to.
Well, I was just gonna say that even the juice feasting can only get through certain layers of detox. Like there are other, you know,
Yeah.
intercellular and within our fat cells and muscles and things of that nature that
Yeah, definitely.
will take years to for some people, or I know for me, I'm not, I know I still experience levels of detox, things still come and go, and so I'm learning to take a step back from this idea that I need to be at an in state or in place, and just know that each and every day I'm going to do the right thing. I mean, either going to be juicing or staying fully raw. And as long as I stay on that path and stick with mostly fruit, then I'll get there. But it might take a while, you know, and yeah, just not getting held to that expectation that it'll be on my timeline really helps with that.
Yeah. Well, it's a journey anyway. So a lot of people try to get there really quickly, and then they crutch on specific ways to detox quickly. But that just makes you lose it in the end. And then you go back to binging or whatever. So you get there eventually by doing something you can do in the long run. That's probably the best way. It can take ages, man. Like, what was it? This Anne Wakemore woman, it took her like what until she was 70 to renew her hair or something, stuff like that. So, you know, she was like doing wheatgrass shots on the bar every single day. So I don't know, man. It could take ages, but I think the most important thing is that you have fun with it and you enjoy it and actually feel good. Because I know so many people who like are on this detox until they die mentality, where they do nothing but detox. Like, I don't think that's healthy at all. Like they just go in deep, 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 and they never give themselves any rest or whatever. And then there's also people who go to the other extreme and just destroy themselves in another way. So there's many ways to implement everything wrong. I wanted to ask Casey, like, how do you feel when this stuff is coming out now? Because you're pretty deep in, right? Like, how does it make you feel when this stuff passes?
I'm just shocked at like, what is this? Like, I'm trying to wonder because it's still solid. And I'm wondering, like, I know there's some fiber in juice, the soluble fiber, and bacteria die off all the time, and that creates some bulk. So I imagine we're gonna, even if we're drinking juice, we can release solids, but sometimes it's like really hard and rubbery. It's like, that ain't right. That's been there a while. That's not juice. Juice would never turn into that. And the other day, something was like gray in there. And I was like, how old is that? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's one of my questions is like, how do you know you're done? Like, will you just poo straight juice that smells like fruit and it's just watery, or is there still solids, or like what happens towards the end, like day 110, and it's like, okay, it's nothing but juice now. I can tell there's nothing left.
All right. I don't know, man. I've never done a juice fast in my life, so I couldn't tell you.
No.
No, for me, like it differs from person to person. I've coached like dozens of people now. It always differs a little bit. Some people have it smell like juice, some don't. But what you will eventually get is that you get the last stuff out of you, so you don't have any solids anymore. Then you'll see some mushy, muddy stuff coming out, maybe some mucus or whatever. And eventually, the only thing you'll pass is like juice, but it isn't really like the juice you drink. It's murkier, so it has a neutral smell. It doesn't stink, but it doesn't smell like you want to inhale it and have it next to your bed in a cup or something. So it's pretty nice. It comes out very pressurized, and you basically just feel you're empty. Like there's nothing left inside of it. You don't have weird feelings or sensations down there. So it just passes really quickly. So usually if you have a juice, 2-3 hours later, that stuff comes out. And it's basically murky, has sort of the color of the juice. And what you can see the juice particles in it. So if you drink watermelon, then you see a bit of red particles in it. If you drink green juice, you get like a little bit of a murkier green, and it just doesn't stink and smell anymore. So then you're clean. And once that lasts for about 2, 3, 4 days, then you can start thinking about breaking it. And in my first long one, I had absolutely no clue what was happening. Like I thought I had another period of no movement. So I was just pounding in juice and just passing juice. And then I got to a certain point where I just asked John Rose, like, what the hell's going on? Am I done or not? And then he said, like, yeah, you're probably done, like in the comments. So that was after 11 days of nothing but juice. So usually about 2, 3 days later, you can assess that you're clean.
Wow. Yeah. For mine, it's
If you're
like, it's
passing
obvious
gray,
not.
rubbery stuff, then
Yeah, it's
you're
not
not
just
done yet. No.
juice. Like there's moments where it looks like it's just juice, but it doesn't smell like juice. That's for sure. It smells like burnt cat food. So that's fun times. I don't remember eating that. How did that happen? But it
That's right.
smells like, because I've made the high meat when I was carnivore, you rot meat in your fridge for months, and that's what it smells like, old meat. That's why I think it's just meat from the carnivore diet, and it's going to take me a while
Could be,
to
yeah.
clean it out.
Did you have like little lumps with like grooves and stuff coming out of you as well or not?
Yeah, all kinds of little lumps, weird shit coming out of me all the time. The little diverticuli, like whatever that is,
Yeah,
bigger
those things.
lumps,
Yeah.
all
That's
kinds of
probably where the meat
textures.
is rotting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember passing that kind of stuff and thinking like, what the fuck is this? What the hell? What is this?
Yeah.
And that wasn't even the worst stuff that came out of me. Like I had a video on YouTube that just straight up got deleted because YouTube flagged it for being too disgusting. All the other ones are still up, but it's insane what's inside of us. And like, I have a client now who did 150 days. Like she was really like thin and everything. And I felt like there can't be much inside of her, right? And like after 150 days, she finally cleaned and she passed the prune test and stuff. But if I've seen photos of her stuff coming out, I'm like, holy moly, how's that inside of you? And then I remember like, oh yeah, that was also inside of me, you know, like it's insane what's inside of us. Like insane.
Yeah.
Truly.
I want to swallow one of those cameras that see it. I wish I could get access to it. I would buy one right now if it was on sale, but I've never seen one.
But yeah, that's where you got to take your camera channel, to the underground cameras.
Yeah, something that gets right up there, because I know a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, I've had a colonoscopy. There's nothing in there, bro. You're crazy." But I've heard Lauren Lockman say it's all in the small intestine. That's where it is, and there's no tube that can go up that high.
True.
Yeah.
Lauren Lockman also says juice is junk food. So it's so funny how there's so many contradicting like stories about this. That's why I eventually just thought like I'll just do it and see it for myself. Like John Rose can be full of shit and it can be true, and Lauren Lockman, you know, can be right, or somebody else can be whatever. So I thought I'll just try it for myself. And once you do and that stuff comes out, then you start to realize, oh my God, it is true. And then you want to tell everybody or show it, and then everybody starts bashing and attacking you. You know, it's really funny. It's just a little circle jerk that keeps repeating itself.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about we have to be our own experimenter. You know, we can't be relying on, we can take feedback and we can sort of compile data on what other people have done, but ultimately we have to try it ourselves. Like we've got to figure out what works for us and what doesn't, and you know, because there's a lot of contradictory things even within just what food's considered raw or healthy or whatever else. Like, you know, you talk about like salt's one thing where people are really go back and forth whether that's something we should be eating or shouldn't be eating, and what it does to us. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, Nathan, if you still consume salt or if you let that go entirely.
Only on avocados. Like
Yeah.
I eat avocado, I put like a garlic powder on and the salt. That's the only time I eat salt, because if you try that once, right, you ruined avocados. You can't eat it without.
It's quite addicting.
And that's the only time I use salt, basically. Like it's so good, man. Other than that, no, I don't really use salt. That's the thing. Like I was raw vegan for about 2.5 years before I did my first long juice fast. And at that point, like when I got to my first juice fast, I still sometimes had like cooked food cravings or whatever, or salt cravings or crunchy things. And still my junk food addiction at the time would rear its head every now and then. After my long juice, I have zero cravings for anything. I don't care about any of it, which is very interesting. So no salt, no crunch, no cooked food or anything. Like it doesn't appeal to me, like zero, just zero, which I had not expected, because I actually, after my juice fasting, I tried like more junk food and stuff. And I basically tried everything under the sun and the moon to see what it would do to me. And then juice fast again, get it out, see how it was fun. And I noticed that I had to force myself to eat it all. So I don't have any of those cravings for salt for anything, actually, which is really interesting.
Just on the avocado.
Only the avocado. Yeah, that's
Is that every day?
And it's not
about here. Or?
No. I don't eat avocados that many. Although there's like a million avocado trees right outside the window here we can eat. Like I'm in the region where they have like cherimoya and like avocados everywhere. But I also noticed that I eat less fat now after all the juice fasting and everything. I don't need that much to satiate me or like feeling, but every now and then I'll put it on, you know, it's like, oh, it's nice. And then the next morning I wake up with like a dry throat and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll let it be for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's been my experience with salt and reintroducing it, is I definitely feel it whenever I go a long period without the salt and then have it. It's such an addictive taste, and I love it so much, but it really does disrupt some things. So I noticed it. I try and do dulse and and then more savory things like tomatoes and celery and things like that to sort of get that same sort of taste without necessarily going to the salt. But I wish it was as easy
Mm.
as just salt, because I do love it.
Yeah, you like celery?
I do like celery, yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand that stuff, man.
Yeah, like I want to
Okay.
try. I haven't tried it yet, but I've heard that you can dehydrate celery and then grind it up like an herb, and then use that as like a salt replacement. So just like powdered
Ooh,
dried celery.
Yeah, I've done that.
you're creating wet dreams now. Cool.
Yeah, I have a video on my channel back in the early days making celery salt, and it's not the same. It's not even
Oh,
close. It's
okay.
the texture. I probably did it wrong. Like I had all the tools. I dehydrated it, I chopped it up, blended it after, but it was still had this kind of texture, and it wasn't all that salty. It's still
Mm,
very celery-like, and
mm,
yeah, that's a
Right.
tough one. That salt craving. I don't have any salt cravings because I make a giant green juice with a whole head of celery, and it's so salty and delicious with the celery and lemon combo. It's like, oh wow. So I'm not having many cravings, but the odd time I'll get craving. If I smell something like, oh, that would have been nice. Oh yeah.
mhm,
Me and my girlfriend took a walk just to get some groceries, and all the restaurants are out with the patios, so everybody's eating. And I'm just like, oh, look at all that stuff. Wow, I remember eating. It's gonna be weird to even eat again, but like things I'm craving are normal, like mangoes and tomatoes. I can't wait to have that combo, like healthy things. Like I just made a video about this. What am I craving? So I won't ruin everything, but like I had this lettuce that had these like marks on it. I don't know if you've ever seen lettuce that had just these like brown marks. And I was like, is that rotten? No way. So I just took a bite and spit it out. But it tasted so good. I was like, how can lettuce taste that good? Like, I think
Yeah,
just the
yeah,
juice fast has healed the taste buds so much that you appreciate these foods way more than you think. Right now, if you've had lettuce before and you're like, yeah, it's lettuce, like who would wait till you clean the
yeah.
tongue and like avoid salt for a long time, and then it's like lettuce, wow. It
mm.
was so creamy and sweet and amazing. I can't wait to mono meal lettuce. I'm gonna have like 5 heads. Yeah, but just going back to what Nathan said earlier with the confusion, I hate that so much. Like even within the raw vegan community, we have all these different leaders saying different things. There's Dr. Morris, very fruit heavy, and then Lauren Lockman agrees with him. Cool, great. And then Brian Clement with the Hippocrates, they're all anti-fruit. And then there's just
Yeah.
so much even within, like, I know Lauren Lockman says never drink distilled water. Like that's terrible. He would never fast anybody on distilled. And it's like, oh, wait, but he said it's the best. And oh, I was just about to buy a distiller now. And I got these copper mugs on the way. What the hell is happening? It's like,
Yeah, I know,
so
man.
thankfully I don't need much water on this juice fast. So it's not a huge issue. I have like a couple sips a day, but what's the best? What is the truth? What are your guys' opinions? Distilled or spring water?
Well,
I,
my take is distilled is absolute best, because the design of water is to purify and flush toxins. So if we're consuming water, it's supposed to draw things away. So when people play down on distilled water as if, oh, it's drawing minerals away from your body, well, these are excess minerals that our body wasn't consuming, our body wasn't processing, so they were just accumulating in different places. So the distilled water is doing exactly what it's supposed to. And when, especially when you add that negative charge from the copper, you're allowing those things to bind to that water even more so. So it's adding a boosted effect for that distilled water. So I think that's the way that water should be. Ultimately, fruit are the best distillers, because they have distilled water within them, and it's that structured water that binds to our cells a lot better. So fruit is even more hydrating. So I honestly don't, when I'm eating fruit regularly and drinking juice and whatever, I don't drink water. I'll drink a juice if I'm super thirsty, but I don't even really get that thirsty. And as long as I'm eating fruit regularly, it's very hydrated. way to be. But I do have a distiller for those times when I want to drink water, or if I'm giving it to my dog, or you know, doing whatever else with it. But yeah, that's my take
Yeah,
on it.
I think I would agree with that. The only thing I could add, like, I know that distilled water is very good at cleansing the kidney, just because they flush away the minerals and everything. So they help the kidneys to filter. Other than that, I don't really drink that much water. Of course, now I have this thing here with water, obviously. But that's only like when I'm really active, or like I'm garden for hours, or I don't know, exercise or something. Then I might take a sip. Other than that, I feel rehydrated from fruits, just regular fruits, you know. I don't know what's up, for example, for Kasey with the juice fest. But in my opinion, like when I was on the juice fest, I was never thirsty. Like never. I never wanted a drip of water, just juice.
For some reason, when I wake up in the morning, usually I don't need water right away, but if I start working out, because I'm doing like intermittent fasting with this juice fast, so I try to drink all my juices within an 8 hour period, and the rest is like a
Oh,
16 hour dry fast. But I'm finding in the morning, sometimes I need a couple sips for whatever
mm,
reason. It's just mouth feels dry. It's like we should have a couple sips.
yeah.
Yeah.
How's
What do
that
you
Water.
going
say?
with the intermittent fasting? Like, does it like interfere with you drinking enough juice, or like is it hard, or is it just regular by now?
I find it's easy to do. I don't know. I drink about 6 liters a day now, and I just upped it a bit. I'm still a bit confused on how much calories we need. Like you hear stories like Free Melon Society. Can't wait to get him on the show and just ask him how the heck does he eat 1 meal a day fruitarian? Not even much, like 2 cantaloupes. It's less than I eat. And I feel like if I under drink my juice, like I'm exhausted. What
Yeah,
are your
yeah,
thoughts?
yeah.
Calories? Do we need them?
You know, like after my juice fasting, I noticed that I need less calories, but still, like 1 meal a day with fruit, it didn't work for me. I had to eat so much fruit to like feel any kind of satiation or whatever. So I don't know, it just didn't work for me. I tried it, but 2 melons a day, no way, man. Like I need more than that. I'm averaging anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 calories, and if I've been active in the mountains or in the garden here, I don't know, cutting trees or stuff, I might even go to 3,500. Like I don't know how these people do it, man. But I need less than before, but still, I need calories. But that's my experience, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see, yeah, again, I'd love to ask Eli about that, but I think he's tapping into more of that sort of stasis prana, you know, maybe he's not even aware of it, but the more that we kind of get refined, we can intake a lot more energy just through our breath and just through our way of being. I'm not speaking from experience because I'm definitely not at that level. I need to consume quite a bit of fruit on a regular basis in order to feel that satiation and not to just melt away. But that's my take, and kind of the more advanced levels of progression that we can get to within this, because it's just figuring out, you know, energy and how what our relationship with it is. So yeah, that's kind of my take on that. It would be interesting to talk to him.
Yeah, it's
That's the
fascinating because he
thing.
says, sorry, go ahead.
You can go ahead too. It doesn't really matter.
Just that he said he'll do a juice fast and he won't lose any weight. Like he's already cleansed out, I guess. And like I've reached a point where the last 3 weeks in a row, I've lost no weight. So that's cool.
Mm,
That's nice that I'm not plummeting away, but that's all I wanted to mention.
I see. Well, I think it also has to do with like the quality of food you have, right? Like I've eaten fruit in Costa Rica. If I would compare that to the fruit I had in the Netherlands, it was a joke, man. Like in Costa Rica, I could eat like, I don't know, 2 melons and feel satiated for a while. If I do that in the Netherlands, like it's like eating snot. Like it does nothing for me. So that's the difference, right? Even here in Spain, it's different. So I think that has to do with it too. Like I see these people in Borneo or something eating fruit from the trees. I'm like, yeah, that's probably more nourishing than I don't know the stuff I can get at a 7-Eleven that was like picked like a year ago or something. So I think that has to do with it too. As for losing weight though, like on Juice Fest, I don't know what's up with you, like how much you lost up till now. I think you mentioned in one of your videos or something, but I think at a certain point after like 90 to 100 days, I didn't lose anything at all. I actually started gaining weight. So that was pretty interesting. Like either I gained more water weight or I was gaining more muscle or whatever, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I just stopped losing weight for 3 weeks. I've lost about 21 pounds in 87
Mm,
days now. And yeah, there was one day where I did way more, 1 pound more than I did the day before. But usually I just do it once a week. I weigh myself. So yeah, that's what people say. Like you do this, you cleanse out and you don't change anything. And eventually you start building back up with the same foods
yeah,
just
yeah,
because you're absorbing better. And
yeah,
hopefully I get to that point. But yeah, it still feels like we need
yeah.
quite a bit of food. I'm not on these esoteric levels where you're absorbing sunlight and
No, me
Not
neither.
yet.
Like, not yet. There's interesting though. Like, I have a theory on this, which I think is pretty close to what is happening. Like, when you actually suddenly gain weight on a juice fast, I think it's because the stuff inside of your colon and your digestive system, I think, is being rehydrated, absorbs water weight, then it just holds a little bit more weight, and then you poop it out again, and then it loses. That would explain why sometimes I would lose like 3, 4 pounds in a day out of nowhere, and then it would gain again 2 the next day, and then would go down and up and down and up and down, which is really interesting. But 21 pounds, that is still quite a lot, right? Like you would not have expected that to be inside of you.
yeah, it's insane. And I think you're right with that theory because I did flush out a bunch and then I did lose 1 pound the next week. And it seems like it's just some day or some weeks I'll lose 3 or 5 pounds and others like less than 1 pound. And it seems to be
Yeah.
doing that, hydrating up and breaking off and coming out. And it's, man, how I'd
Yeah.
want to see what's in there. Like, what the heck is going on down there?
Yeah,
Telling
because
you.
you're not like you don't have like a balloon belly or anything or like a big structure. I was the same. Like I had like a tight midsection. Like I was like, where on earth is all this stuff coming from? How is this possible? It just kept coming and coming and coming. And like after my lung juice fast, I did like cooked food experimentation where I ate like all kinds of junk food, all kinds of lentil soups, burgers, whatever. I tried everything basically to see what would happen. And then 5 months later, I did another juice fast. And again, like I lost like a couple kilograms, like maybe 10 pounds or something that was again plugged up in my system, but this time it passed easily. So there is like a point of like you can prove this to yourself over and over again. Just it is that stuff that just gets stuck in your system. But if it's been there for like 10 or 20 years, it stinks to high heaven, man. It's insane.
Did you do that, just that experimentation with cooked food because of like cravings and binging, or did you have that mindset going into it?
No.
I really want to experiment and see what happens.
Well, after my first long one, I was still like, am I still addicted to junk food, right? Because that's what I
Mm.
had. I had a junk food addiction before doing my first one. So, curiosity kills the cat. Like my curiosity got the best of me. So I thought like, I'll do that. And then instantly afterwards, I'll do a juice fast to see what happens. And I ate it. Like I ordered the usual stuff I would get before that just to see. And then just the smell just made me feel uncomfortable. Like all kinds of memories came back from it. But also I had to force myself to eat it. So I ate maybe like half of it or something. And it was like being hit by a brick in a truck at the same time. And then an elephant walked over me and then sat on me. Like that's how I felt. My body just felt like I had a brick inside of me trying to digest. And after 3 days, I still had not seen that stuff come out of me. So at that point, I panicked and went back to a juice fast. And then like 4 or 5 days later, like the stuff flushed out again. And I gained 1.3 kilograms from that, I believe. So that would be like 2.5 to 3 pounds or something instantly from that. It wouldn't come out of my body until I flushed it out. And then I started thinking like, what if I take this further, right? Because it is pretty fun to see this change and see what happens to you, even though I suffered. So I thought, what if I try lentil soups and do this and that and such and so? And I tried all kinds of things. And I said to myself, I'll wait 2 to 3, maybe 4 or 5 months at the most, let it sit in my body and then try to get it out again and see if it looks like that old stuff before. Well, it didn't. So it was a conscious, thing to do. And it was a lot of fun, man. Like you get to know your body really well when you do that. Like you really pick up on the implications of what you eat, because some things gave me absolutely no reaction. Like for example, lentil soups or mashed up sweet potatoes, zero reaction, nothing. Junk food would feel like an existential threat, like something invaded my body and tried to wreck all my organs or something like that. And then something as innocent as, for example, a chocolate bar with milk in it or something would make me feel like I was hit by a bat or something. Like it was insane. Like you get all these nuances, and then when it comes out again, you also feel this, but then to a lesser degree than before. So it was really interesting. And this is another thing. Like it was actually quite addictive doing this experimentation for me. Like I wanted to do more and more. So after all that, I thought I'll do more juice fast and then break it wrong, because a lot of my clients do that. They break it with burgers, or I don't know, fries or something, or even pizzas. Some of them do it, and then they tell me like, yeah, it's so much pain. I was like, I could try that, see how it feels, so I can relate, you know. So I did that. So then I ended up with like over 300 days of juice fast, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm done now. I've experienced most of it now. So pretty fun though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, I know in one of your videos you brought up a good point about this sort of cycling of juice fasting that we can get into.
yeah.
You know, where we always are wanting to sort of like go in this wave of like eating, and then I want to feel better, so I go through this juice fast. So I was wondering if you could
Yeah.
expand on that sort of topic, because I think it's
Sure.
it's a good one to go into.
Well, it's something I notice with my clients, and I eventually notice with myself too. I call it being trapped in juice fasting cycles, and they sometimes never end. Where because of juice fast, and I think Kasey can relate to this, like when you do a long juice fast and you get all this stuff out of you, like the juice fast takes like a mythical standpoint, right? Like we have the screen here, the juice fast is all the way up there. You think like this is my free out of jail card, right? I can screw up everything, but I can still go on a juice fast and get it all out. But the point is, most people hop on a juice fast and then they have no idea what they will do afterwards when food and everything. They haven't worked on their mental relationship with food. They haven't worked on their own body image. So when they go back to eating, that stuff just resurfaces. And if you give in once, then it's a slippery slope, and you go down there. So then you will get into a position where you're either not knowing what you're doing and you start binging, or you're simply just going back into old habits. And then your first panic reaction is, I'll go back to my free out of jail card, right? I go juicing. So you go back to a month or two of juicing, then you go back to your old habits again. This keeps cycling and cycling and cycling. And this is a mental strain you won't believe. And I even experienced this too, where in a different way, like I got almost addicted to experimentation with juice fasting, to the point where I was like just perpetually juice fasting. And my mother asked me like, what are you going to do with your life? Drink juice all your life? And I was like, maybe she has a point, you know? So it can be really dangerous because you can hurt yourself with this. And it's also really funny because, juice fast is something very extreme. And then you just basically go from one extreme to the other. And that makes your life very extreme to the point where you almost don't have a life because you're obsessed with either getting rid of your bad habits and then overreacting with something else that becomes a bad habit. So it's so interesting, these mental things that we do with ourselves. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I noticed that get out of jail free card when I was in Thailand, and I had just done my 21-day water fast and broke it with raw eggs, and I'm like dying in
I remember
pain.
that video.
Yeah, that was rough. And I get back, and right in front of my condo was a juice bar, and I was like, that's what's gonna save me, isn't it? And so I just went in and I did drink nothing but like that brought me back to life. And it was like, oh, thankfully. And then like down the road, I went back again to the carnivore. I got food poisoning. I was like, back to the juice fast. That'll get me out of this. And yeah, it is this kind of get out of jail free card because it does work. But then are you gonna keep like poisoning yourself and then going back to the juice and then okay, cleanse out and then eat fun stuff again? Yay. I think we got to come to a balance. But yeah, I think I'm gonna be mostly just eating raw food. I don't want to really experiment. I just want to thrive on the raw food. If I'm not, then I'll be looking. That's what the whole journey's been about. Like I'm getting confused and looking for other answers when I wasn't thriving on the raw vegan. But I feel like this juice fast is going to cleanse out, and then I'll be able to absorb, and I should be able to thrive. But there's just minor tweaks. Like I find if I don't have any fat, I don't know how you guys feel, but my energy just tanks if I have zero overt fats. Like I know there's some fat in juice, like 2 to 7% fat in all fruits and veggies, but if I don't add a source, like I know John Rose says have a tablespoon of flax a day. I get crazy acne though if I have that much oil, like it's not good. But I'm finding like I went for a while without any fat and I'm just dying, and then had some flax oil and I come back to life. And have you guys noticed that? Like if you have no fat whatsoever, your energies are low, like even just a little bit olive oil, my energy comes back and I feel on top of the world, and I'm just like, yeah, beaming. This is this key. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I have that too. Like low fat doesn't work for me, but high fat doesn't work either. Like high fat, like over 60 or 80 grams or whatever. Going lower than 20 doesn't, like, I like to be like anywhere between 40 and 60. That makes me feel good. I even notice I have, indeed, like you said, like better energy, but also better sleep. If I have like low fat or really high fat, I have like the most weirdest dreams too. I don't know what it is, but I notice that connection. Like, like I go to some different form of life or something, and then I come back to wake up here and I'm like, what is the real life? Like those kind of weird dreams, you know, like it's really weird. Like the nuances between too much, too little, and nothing, like what your body tells you. But yeah, I noticed that too, definitely. But on
Yeah,
juicing, like you can get like if you just drink a lot of like vegetables, like carrots and sweet potatoes and stuff, and other veggies, you can get pretty much all of your fats that way that you need a day, minimum 10 grams. But I usually like to be a little over like 20 or 25 when I'm juicing, so I add the oils. But never heard anyone get acne from that. That's interesting though.
Every time, if I have too much oil, too much fat, it's the weirdest thing that I've never been able to figure out. If I'm on a high carb vegan diet and I start upping the fats, I get acne until I go like super high fat, like 60 to 80% fat, and lower the sugar. Then my skin clears up again. So I can have like clear skin on both high carb or high fat. But when I start mixing them, it doesn't work.
interesting.
Have you tried walnut oil or not?
No, I have not.
It's very addictive. It's very nice, but you could give it a try, man. Like I don't like oils that much either, but walnut oil works fine for me, so you can give it a shot.
Yeah, it might just be
But I
the
warn you, man.
flax
Before you
oil.
do that, you're gonna you're gonna spoon that stuff, man. Like it's so good. Yeah, but flax oil, I don't like it either. Like I use hemp oil, but then hemp oil has a very strong taste, so I just went to walnut oil because I like walnuts, and then it was like heaven. And then before you know it, the bottle was gone, and then you're like, oh no, it's gone.
Yeah, I haven't experimented much with concentrated oils. I've just something about the concentrated fats. It seems like our body would be a lot more receptive to just the whole food. So if I do love fats. I love avocados. I love having nuts and seeds every now and again, like a tiny small amount. I can't do a lot of nuts or seeds, or it really binds me up. Um, but having a small amount of those fats is really helpful for me. And like there's a lot of controversy with avocados and what we should, should we or shouldn't we have them? And that's something I'm not ready to let go of because they are delicious. And yeah, they so
Yeah,
I do feel better when I do have some fats in a day. But I do avoid any of the concentrated oils myself, so I haven't really even experimented with them.
yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Like with the fats and everything, like that's the thing. What Casey also said, like there's so many different opinions and everything that you almost start to question your own existence, right? If you listen to all these people, like everything could be fake, man. Like I might have ears, I might not have ears. I might have a nose, I might not. You know, it goes everywhere. So I always just listen to what my body tells me, and then I know. So that's how I figured out the fats. But just like Casey, like he just knows that the oil doesn't work, so that's for him. Like, and some people can gobble down the oil and they have no problem. It's just also, you know, you have to listen to yourself. And that's why I always tell everybody that comes to me with questions or whatever, or talks to me, like I tell them, like, just figure it out yourself. I can tell you what to do, but it's probably not going to work because you need to figure it out yourself. Like if I look at, for example, John Rose's salad or fully raw Christina salad, I can't eat that. It's way too big, man. Like that 5 pound thing. And fully raw Christina makes salads that can feed the entirety of Mexico. Like I can't eat that. That doesn't digest well for me, you know? It's impossible. So I need a smaller salad. But then they tell me, oh, the greens. And someone else tells me to only eat bananas. And then another guy tells me to only eat flax seeds, or I don't know. Like there's merit probably in everything, but you need to figure it out for yourself. So that's, I think, the biggest takeaway I've gotten from all the juice fasting and raw foods is just, I know what works for me, and I can teach someone else to know what works for them, but I can never tell them like this will work for you or that will work for you. You know, you have to figure that out yourself. And that's the fun of it. Like that's the fun for me.
Yeah, we're all so different. And that's, you
Yeah.
have to experiment and just learn from your books, read your books, get people's ideas, and then try it for a while and give it a good go. And then you'll see for yourself what works and what not. It's tough on the juice fast because you can't juice fat. So it's like, where's my oil would be olive juice. Like I don't know where you can't, like you're not supposed to do the nut milks. So yeah,
No.
oil's the only way
It's
to
hard.
go.
You could just juice like a bucket load of like vegetables, but I don't know about you, but I don't like vegetable juice. Like I found a couple of them that taste good after like years of trying now, but I'm not a fan. Like I don't know how that's with you. I just drink fruit juice preferably.
I love vegetable juice, and I get roughly, I think I just had like maybe 13 grams of fat a day from my entirety of juices, and it's
Ah,
not
yeah,
enough.
right.
I need
Yeah,
some type of concentrated fat,
yeah.
but I love celery, lemon, ginger, and then add anything to that, and I'm in heaven. Like it's my favorite juice. I can't wait to make. As soon as I'm done this one, or the next, I have one more watermelon. It's going right for the green juice, and it's like, all right, it's almost a cheat meal. It really is that good for me.
Yeah, have
Have you
you?
tried sun-dried tomatoes in your juices?
I've never seen them without salt.
You can get them like without salt and without the oil in some stores, like health stores probably. If you just soak them in water for a couple hours and then throw them through your juicer, your juice will taste like pizza.
Wow.
Legit.
Yeah, that'd be good. I
I can
juice
see,
tomatoes
I can
sometimes,
see him
but
thinking right now, like, oh, I could do that. I could do
yeah, I will. If I ever see
that.
them, I've never seen them without salt in them. Of course, that'd be delicious. Bunch of salt, add salt to the juice and black pepper, and you're
Yeah,
good to go. But
yeah, they're really
yeah,
nice.
Do you still have that dehydrator? You could try just dehydrating your own tomatoes and then
Yeah, you
rehydrating
could do
them.
that.
no, I sold it. I sold everything when I went to move to Thailand. I just started. I had my little infrared sauna and just a bunch of stuff. I'm like, nope, I'm going for it. Going to Thailand. I'll travel again one day. It's not so bad. Like Eli, he's thriving here. He's thriving hard, and he's a couple miles from me. So I don't know how he's doing it, what kind of fruit he's getting. Same markets. He just, his mind is so powerful. He creates organic food out of conventional. Like I don't know what he does. He's
There it
just,
is.
yeah, yeah. He's a species.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but
Fun.
that's interesting with the
Well,
sun-dried tomatoes and the juice. I've been wanting to experiment more with those, with just making sauces and things like that, because I know they do add that it's a different taste than just regular tomatoes, which is interesting. But it's a good tip to know about with the juice as well. So
yeah, just
Nathan,
get
what?
them without the salt. Otherwise,
Right?
you're just gonna have
Yeah,
like a throat that's just gonna explode. Yeah.
or sulfur, or like a lot of them will have preservatives and things like that nature. So it's kind of hard to find them
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
but just plain tomatoes. So
Yeah.
I was curious, Nathan, what do you like? What's your normal kind of like meal throughout the day schedule? Like, do you keep it any sort of structure, or is it pretty much random day by day, whatever you got kind of thing?
No, it isn't random. I have like a set structure where like I have one meal in the beginning of the day, like around 11 a.m., 12 p.m., like in midday. That is just plain fruit, usually melons or something like that. And I'm lucky to be in the south of Spain, so I can get access to local stuff. That's usually what I have. And then the second meal is a smoothie, and that's around 3, 4 p.m. And those two meals are my calorie meals. So they're the bulk of my calories are in that. And those are the goals of those meals. And the smoothie can be anything with like bananas and I don't know, like some kind of green in it, kale or spinach or whatever, some seeds and stuff that mix well with that. And some frozen fruit. And then at the end of the day, like at around 6, 7 p.m., I'll have a salad. And that's basically just nutrient oriented. So that's my structure. And I can be flexible, like if I'm a little later or a little sooner, it doesn't really matter. But I try to get that every single time. And in my videos, I talk about it too. That's my base. And that way I make sure I get everything I need. And that's basically it. So it's that simple.
Nice. And then I'm sure if you feel the need to snack on some fruit in between, like you you don't hesitate, or
Yeah, well,
do you usually do that?
I don't really snack that much unless I like if the day before I didn't have my salad, then I get like snack tendencies the next day. But then I get like because there's a lot of nutrients and minerals in the greens, I maybe start like craving some nuts or something because there's like some minerals in there that didn't get with my greens. Other than that, I don't really snack that much. Like
Mm.
those meals are, but I have to say like that's usually how I ate anyway. Like before I even went raw or whatever and was just the junk food bodybuilder, like I would eat like once or twice a day. That's it. Like fasting came naturally to me in that sense, and I didn't really snack that much either. I just had big meals, so I can't say if that is like just fully down to the raw foods or me being that way before, but I don't really snack now.
That's how I would prefer to eat too. Just like small or bigger meals, but like 2 a day probably. I wish I could do the
Yeah.
1 a day fruitarian, but it's like too much volume. I imagine I could pack it in 2 meals though, potentially. Do you ever get tired after
Yeah.
giant fruit meals or no, not anymore?
No, never, never. I did OMAD like with fruit, and like what I would do is after my long juice fest, I tried like eating like 3 times a day, 2 times a day, and once a day. And 3 times a day, I found at the beginning to be too much. I was just constantly eating, and I came from juicing, so it was like, no way, man, I need to do my stuff. 2 times a day was the sweet spot. Then I would have one big fruit meal, and then a little bit of fruit before my salad, and then a big salad. And then the one meal a day, I did like between 4 and 6 p.m. or 4 and 7 p.m. I would eat everything. So I would eat a bunch of fruit, then have like a stomach ache because I had to stuff everything in, and then I would eat like my salad. I felt uncomfortable every minute of the day after that because it wouldn't digest well. It didn't feel good. So it doesn't work for me, but I like the 3 meals a day or 2 meals, however you structure it. That works wonders for me, man. I love that.
Yeah.
1 meal a day is no go for me, man. I tried it, but it doesn't work.
What do you think of if you could rate foods by how much they clog up the body? Which would be like the worst? Like avoid these at all costs, dairy, cheese, and then like this is better. What's your pyramid of colon sludge creating foods?
Colon sludge. In my own experience, for me, like again, this is personal because some people have like diverticuli, so then the system will react differently. In my case, some people have like bent colons or whatever, or they have a shorter torso and all. So it really depends. But in my case, personally, it would be anything with gluten, which basically just becomes glue, and then grains, and also everything that is basically meat or dairy. I react really strongly to that. So that just is instant constipation for me. And then funnily enough, like I can get away with steamed vegetables. They don't plug me up. I can get away with like, for example, cooked vegetables to some degree too. I can get away with soups. I can get away with, for example, hummus, which for some people would be like their wet dream. And I still like hummus like every now and then if I could get it, but I don't really feel the need to it, but it digests well. And then of course also mashed up sweet potato works well, but anything else than that is no bueno when it plugs me up. Like it just starts to slow my digestion down. I started noticing it, get more gassy, more bloaty. And then before I know it, things start like passing a day later or something. I'm like, oh dear, it's not coming on time.
You know what's funny about gluten? Like pretty much everybody knows that gluten is bad. Pretty much, if you've researched health, you're like, yeah, gluten, that's the first thing you get rid of. I know a guy who eats nothing but wheat and he eats grass.
Yeah.
He eats wheat grass and like sprouted wheat. And he's like, are you kidding me? Gluten is the most elastic protein available. You wouldn't believe my flexibility. And he's like, gluten is a superfood. It was in the Bible. Like, why do you think?
Yeah.
And it's just he blew my mind. Like there is some master out there who's like, yeah, wheatgrass is the only thing we need. It provides every nutrient, and sometimes you can have little like soaked wheat kernels if you feel like having like it's just hilarious how one truth is somebody else's lie and nobody knows what the heck is going on.
No, that's why you need to find it out yourself, right? But like those are the things for me that like plug me up instantly. But then also I have like clients that have no diverticulum, which is obvious because they eat some stuff that plugs me up and then for them it passes after like 20 or 36 hours or something like that. So it can be fine. And also funny, like I always just rate it based on how my body responds to it. So not necessarily if it comes out and what time. Like I can set my alarm to something that I eat and I know about, but what time they will come out. But they make me feel a specific way. There's a specific pressure when you eat things. When you're fully clean, you feel that. You'll probably experience that yourself. There's a specific pressure to things when they move through you and the way they go and what speed. And if I eat something like it will make me feel horrible, then I already know like, oh, we have a problem here. And then if I eat it like prolonged periods, then the problem becomes pretty worse. And then you need to have a juice fast to clean that out again, which is funny.
Well, yeah, and you bring up a good point that's like the whole reason to go on along juice fasts at the beginning is so that we become
Yes.
receptive to these feelings and how certain foods make us
Hmm.
feel. Because
Yeah.
prior to, when we're just consuming all sorts of everything, we can feel like shit all the time, but we just kind of get used to
Yeah.
it, you know? We don't
Yeah.
really realize
Yeah.
how much we're damaging ourselves or how much we're feeling low on a regular basis until you have that moment of
True. Yeah.
clarity, and then you can sort of
Yeah.
calibrate well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, sometimes I'm just surprised how some people can function. I see their diets, I see their lifestyle. I'm like, how on earth are you still walking? Like the body is just amazing. Like if I look what I did to my body, like I'm amazed I didn't have colon cancer at the time that I started becoming raw. You know, like what I did to my body was insane. Just to give you like a little feedback about that, like I was full on junk food like 5 times a day sometimes when I was in my during college. Like they knew what I would order. Like they saw my name. I didn't even have to put the order in. They would just bring it to me. They knew it, you know? And like I was so bloated and I was eating meat every single day, like 5, 10 pounds of meat and stuff and all kinds of dairy. Like I'm amazed my body still functioned to that degree. And then, for example, I looked at what my grandfather did with this diet, and I'm like, how the hell did you become almost 100 years old? There's no way I would be able to do that, you know? So like, it's insane, man. And then when you reset your body and then you try one of these things, you're like, whoa, that my body got used to that and that became the new standard is almost the definition of insanity. Like, how do we cope with this? Not to mention all the other things from society that you're bombarded with, like, you know, all the mental abuse and all the other stuff that they're putting in your body and whatever. Like, it's insane, man. And then when you go back to that stuff, you're like, then what John Ross always talked about was this new reference point, right? And I was always like, yeah, that's nice, man, whatever. Like, there's a couple of things with John Rose at first where I was like, I don't know if he's bullshitting me, right? Like, I don't know if it's true. And then he was always talking about this new reference point. And at a certain point, after like 2.5 years of Rob, I was like, yeah, whatever, man, it's not true. Then I did my juice fest and then I did cooked food again. I was like, oh, he's right. I get the new reference point now. Like it was like a bit, I call it the bitch slap brick, basically. Like you get bitch slapped by a brick when you have such a realization, right? And it's funny, like afterwards, I talked to him on the phone once for 2.5 hours or something. And I told him all these things like, yeah, I thought you bullshitted me about this or that. But then it ended up being true. And he just laughed at me like, yeah, yeah. It's, it's such a cool journey, man. This, like, you get so many realizations.
I'm glad you got it so quickly because I also heard of John Rose and then I did my little 13-day juice fast and I was just
Yeah.
having too much diarrhea constantly. I'm like, oh, I got to give
Mm.
up. And then I was
Yeah.
still doubting the sugar from fruit at that point. And I was like, it is the sugar.
Yeah.
See, I can't tolerate. That's why I'm tired. It's blood sugar spikes. And I didn't recognize the detox. So that led me on the path to high fat. And it took me a good 4 years, I think, to get back here. And then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
now, yeah, he was right. So congrats on beating my
Yeah.
4 year mark.
Well, you know, Casey, like you still got where you are right now, right? You just needed that apparently on your journey, and like that's your journey, and like everybody goes through different stages. Like, I think the interesting thing is like when you come to this kind of thing, like there's many ways to come it. Like some people already know a lot about how the world works and what's going on with everything behind the scenes, if you will. And then they go to a juice fest and then they get this entire physical aspect to it. And some people will know the entirety of the physicality and then discover all these mental things and they have a mental breakdown about that or whatever. Like everybody has their own path, right? Like I learned a lot of mental things about myself and traumas and like issues that I had to resolve, which I just have been running away from for years. And I only realized them like a couple months ago, right? So that's a different path to that again. So I would say you probably have been lucky because you got so many different like experiences and reference points that what you're doing now, you're like, well, compared to that, what I did and that thing and that thing and that thing, this is it. Like now you can fully say it and nobody can argue with that, right? Like they can't tell you like, oh yeah, but you didn't try this. Well, you tried basically everything. Like you even bested me in that regard. So, you know, so it's perfect, man.
Yeah, it's funny because I get a lot of comments of people telling me how much better I felt on keto. And it's like, you are watching videos. You don't know how, like, just because I said, oh, I feel great one day, like, yeah, there was times where my energy was on fire and it's from that fat.
Yeah.
There's something, but like literally I need about a teaspoon of fat now. It's not,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have to drink lard. So it's like,
Yeah.
I feel so much better. It's not even close. Like My skin is clearer than it's ever been on keto. I have more energy.
Yeah, man.
I still get some days where I'm tired, but like everything, spirituality, mental clarity, like everything is better. There's not one thing that's better now than it was on keto. Like keto's terrible. So, but people think because they watch me and they're like, oh yeah, you felt great. You were fatter. You looked better. No, you were healthier on keto. It's like, no, I've got blood tests that showed I had the kidneys of a 90-year-old man on the keto diet. It's too much protein.
Yeah. I always find it funny to go to your comment section and just look at the stuff they're telling you. What was it recently? Like some people were like telling you something about your one arm pull up or something, and then the next video popped up and you actually did it, but you pre-recorded it. I laughed. I just lost it, man. It was so funny. All those people eating their own words.
Yeah, it's funny. They keep giving excuses that, oh, you're lighter now. That's why you can do it. And I was like less than 5 pounds. Give me a break. You couldn't even hold yourself up.
Yeah, that's impressive, man. A one arm pull up. I can't do that, man. Like, I don't have the strength of that. You know what's funny? Like, this is what I also realized when I went through all of this. Like, when I went to raw foods, like people thought I lost it. Like, I absolutely lost it because, well, I lost about 60 pounds or something when I went from my bodybuilding diet and then went to raw foods. I stopped training and everything, and people blamed the diet. And then at my graduation, they hadn't seen me for a couple of months, so I lost like 60 pounds. And like teachers came to me, like professors and stuff, like, "You have cancer?" I was like, "What kind of question is that?" So I told them, like, "Yeah, I have 2 months to live." And then they almost bursted in tears. So I thought, oh, better be careful with that. And then like people just started like ridiculing me for what I did, and they questioned everything I did. And then I realized that what I was basically doing was showing that everything that they believed wasn't necessarily something that was true. It could be questioned, and it could be something that could be the complete opposite. That was almost like a threat to their entire existence. Like they thought like, oh, wait a minute, all the standards I'm holding up, they might not be true, so they'll attack you for it. And then I started realizing that the more I went to juicing as well, that I was like, what they're actually showing me is their own issues, reflecting it on me so they can attack me for it instead of having to deal with it themselves. And then I realized that that's all society is, right? Just like a little, you're kicking in your own door basically, and then throwing in the fire in the house and burning it down. Like, it's really interesting to see that way. When you go on YouTube and social media too, like people just try to tear you apart when they're basically realizing that what you're doing is probably something they should or want to do too. And then you get that kind of stuff, which is really interesting, I would say.
It is. I mean, it's that egoic response to having someone, because when our ego views someone going through a journey where they are moving past the ego has this response to where it's like literally fighting for its life. And so it views that as an attack, even though that person's doing nothing to them. It views it as an attack, and so they have to find some way to justify, talking shit or whatever else. But it's a fascinating phenomenon.
Yeah, and I think some people still don't. They won't ever stop with, and some people just can't be reasoned with. Like, it's like putting someone under a shower of facts, but they're wearing a raincoat, so it just runs off them. Like, there's some people are just so brain that there's no way to convince them. And that's the thing I did in the beginning. I tried to convince everybody of what I was doing, and I tried to convince everybody of what I learned and discovered. And then I realized, like, who am I convincing, them or me? You know what? I'll just do me, and then they'll either listen or not. And when I realized that, then everything became a lot easier. But sometimes you still get like pulled back into that discussion mode, with people, but especially family and friends. They never cease to amaze me. Like, after like almost 5 years of raw food, like, yeah, you want some eggs? I'm like, no, I still don't want eggs. Come on, no thanks. Like, doesn't end. It's funny. They still try.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of those kind of skinny shaming comments now, and it's all I see. And it's like, wow, like people are so focused on how you look. And I imagine humans are supposed to be slim, and we're athletic and we're able to do stuff, like not really puffy and fat. Like, it's not right. But that's the normal now because that's what we see everywhere. Yeah. So it's like, this is what people look like. You look skinnier than this guy eating bacon, mushroom, cheeseburgers. So you're unhealthy. We're all normal. But we have to like redefine the potential of a human being. And it's being pretty skinny. Like, it's hard to be fat eating natural foods. I'm sure you could do it, but
I tried, man. I tried to get fat on raw foods. Like for 4 weeks, I ate 3,500 calories and didn't do anything. Well, I biked to the supermarket. That's about it. I couldn't gain fat, man. Whatever I tried, I couldn't gain fat.
Yeah,
Like nothing happened.
I don't think it's possible. I think you just poop more. To be honest, I think you just get to that point where you can't process that much raw food, but I don't think it sticks to us. Like I think it's just
No, no, it
our
doesn't.
body gets exactly what it needs from it, and that's that.
Yeah, yeah, and then the rest just get disregarded. You can gain quite some muscle on raw foods, though. But like, I don't see the point in having like a big bulky body or like having a lot of body mass that you have to carry around and like take care of as well. Like I've been huge and I've been very skinny, and I just like to be like where I'm at now, like have a little bit of muscle and be fit and capable, and that feels so natural, like just like for example, I coach a lot of raw women too, and they usually when they go on a raw food diet or they do the juice fast, their breasts become smaller. That's a very big issue for them, which I can understand. Like it's like the same when a man loses muscles or something. But I always bring up this point to them. Like I told them, like, well, from my natural blueprint in nature, I wouldn't be massive, right? I wasn't born like a Hulk or something or whatever. Like it wouldn't be natural to be that way. I don't think big breasts would be natural either. Like if you're in nature, you have to carry this thing around. They're melons and they're like, hanging there, tearing your skin, making you have back aches and stuff like that. It wouldn't be natural, right? So I think like in our entire bodies, there's so much that just isn't absolutely natural at all anymore. And then we normalize that, which is really something funny to think about because we normalize the abnormal and now trying to go back to the normal is abnormal. Which crazy, right?
Right. Yeah, it's this idea. I mean, even with the way that our history is told to us, that we're told there used to
Yes.
be kings and queens of old that were fat, and there used to be fat people, but all of that's a lie. There weren't fat people except for the past 100 years. Like it didn't really exist. It wasn't a thing until this
Yeah.
processed junk food industry, all of that sort of thing, where everything just accumulates to us a lot better because
Yeah.
it's this
True.
design to how many layers can we dampen the human spirit and keep it from rising and growing, and the food that we consume is a big one. It's a big way to keep
Definitely.
us
Yeah.
rooted.
Yeah. Well, if you look at like videos of the 40s and 50s, you see almost no fat people, right?
Mm-mm.
Like, man, I can't even remember that many fat people when I was in like school, elementary school or whatever. I couldn't. They were actually shamed for being fat. Like there weren't that many there. Like you would be singled out and you're fat, right? Like I'm just like this is a thought I had. Like for example, John Rose talks about a tipping point. Like we reached the 100th monkey or whatever, something he says, and then everybody starts juicing and we save mankind or whatever. But like it could also go this way, right? Like we have a situation where mankind's DNA and genetics is deteriorating at such a point because of what we eat and what we do with our lifestyle. We could also reach a tipping point where like some people just can't reproduce anymore. Their body can't function. Like their genetic line dies out. Like I think we're getting really close to that, man. Like that
Oh,
could do something too, right?
yeah, it's absolutely a choice. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
all one way or the other. We're splitting.
Mm.
This is, and we see the split. We're just with this whole COVID hysteria show and the people who are choosing to play that game and go into that route. And so that world will
Yeah.
continue to expand. That world will continue to be available for anyone that want to live in it. But at the same time, a parallel choice emerges, which is this going back to the Garden of Eden lifestyle, going back to
Yeah.
Mother Earth and the fruit and holistic living and gaining our in touch with our spirituality, gaining that connection with God. And so this is going to
Yeah.
be this split reality that we go to, towards the artificial, the dumbing down, the keeping us rooted, or to the elevation, going higher or going lower. We get to choose which way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
100%
had
agree.
to really trick us with these foods. Like it's just all science experiments, and you really like I know there's a guy, Andrew Perlot, on YouTube that got fat on fruit, but like he did it in a way where he didn't feel good while doing it. Like he's like, can I overeat and just blending all these smoothies and like stuffing myself to the point of fatigue? Like, okay, you could do it, but if you're like listening to your body and like you're just eating to satiation, it'd be very hard to get fat without all these hyper delicious foods that like wow, that's so good. And then you eat the whole thing. It's like, that was 3,000 calories for that burger and the fries. And
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
wow, why did I wash it down with a Coke? And it's like, yeah, it's funny, but it's so like fruit is so satiating. It's like too
it is. Yeah,
satiating. I'm not looking forward to that feeling at all of the full gut. I'm hoping I don't get it. Like I used to have that. Like it's just sitting there, even if it's a rice and bean meal or something. It's just like so heavy. This is so light
yeah,
feeling. I'm hoping whole fruits are similar to this, just some fiber in
they
there.
are. They're very, very light, very light. Salads feel a little heavier, but you get used to it. Like it just moves through your body very easily. If you ever try it again, like beans or whatever, or rice or lentils or stuff like that, you feel it's a lot heavier. Um, you also feel like this. It's really weird. Like you feel almost like on a drug. Like you get like dose off, and you get like after dinner dip. You feel like you're going to a different dimension when you eat that stuff. You're like drooling on the couch, that kind of stuff. So it's really weird. Like, by the way, I wanted to ask, how is it like in Mexico? Like now that you're there, just in like with there's like a different vibe there, right? I've been there myself. Like, do you experience that too? Like life is completely different there compared to the West or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh yeah, it's a very lot slower pace in a lot of ways. People are it's a lot more community oriented where people are, you always see neighbors out talking to each other and kids out playing on the street and yeah, and everyone's very, very very curious and very welcoming and but yeah, it's a nice pace. It's a really nice pace and it's a good way of being. I'm really enjoying it.
Hmm. What do you like most about it?
Well, I mean the warmth, the climate is pretty supreme. Like where we
Yeah,
are in Miacatlan, it's it gets it's the this is like some of the hottest points of the year, but it never gets I don't know what this is in Celsius, but it never gets above like the 90s. So it's like the 90s in the day, and then we're in the rainy season. But it never rains during the day either. So we get these beautiful
yeah,
thunderstorms that roll through at night, and so it creates this like lush green, beautiful environment without you having to experience that overcast or that rain that's sort of like disrupting your day. So
yeah,
each day is just like you wake up, enjoy the sun, um, enjoy the warmth, and then at night the cooling rains will come in. And I think this lasts for another few months, and then it gets to the dry season, which is a little bit cooler all around. But again, it's still quite warm compared to everywhere else, and
yeah.
so it's a nice space.
That's cool, man. Like, you actually made the move and now you're there. Like, that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
also like this step away from like society and whatever, and that path that's going, right? That self-destructive world and whatever. You're going in a different direction. That's really something. That's like a
yeah,
definitive like statement to life and the universe or God or the director, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's what I'm choosing, so that's what I'm gonna do.
exactly. And we've just been conditioned into thinking that we have to just be passive and complacent, and we have no choice in the matter, and we just have to do whatever society does for us.
Mm,
And that's by design. We've been designed to be good slaves so that we don't ever do anything outside of what our masters want us to do. But now we're faced with this opportunity, as you called it, the breaking point, where we have this choice, and that's what all ancient texts have all talked about, this transitional period where
yeah,
we're going through, and it's very clear in
yeah,
Revelation, we have this choice. We have this choice. What are we going to keep going further down, keep going further into that slave mindset where I'm sure they'll make like hybrid cities where everyone's microchipped and you've got to wear masks everywhere and everyone's got to be vaccinated. And so the people who want to have that way of life will go to the city and they'll have that
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
But everyone who doesn't will say, fuck that shit, I'm getting out. Like I'm going to go create a utopia where I can grow my food all year round, and along with that, technologies will come out where we'll be able to harness better energies to grow different foods, all sorts of different regions. We'll be able to grow greenhouses a lot more easily, but people will be
yeah,
given that opportunity to step outside of that insanity and given that choice to do otherwise. But it's not all one way or the other. It's a definitive choice. Like, do you want to live in the madness, or do you want to create heaven on earth? And I'm
Yeah,
choosing the
yeah,
latter.
that's cool, man. That's a definitive statement.
Yeah.
Would you say it was like hard to make that choice for you? Like, was it an entire process? Of course, went to that point where you made that decision, but have you noticed that like everything around you tried to pull you back from that choice, or like
Oh,
back
sure.
to the insanity? Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole design of, again, that egotistical response of realizing that if anyone starts to break away from the herd, then the whole egotistical structure is threatened. I mean, that's all that the
mm-hmm.
cabal or the world or the rulers or the Illuminati or whoever, however you want to turn them, that's all that they are. Is just an external manifestation of our internal ego. And so they're
Yeah,
just doing the same sort of thing in the external world as our internal ego does within us. And
right,
so the
right,
more that I step outside of my egoic control of myself, the more my ego is going to respond and try and reel me back in. So society
yeah,
acts the same sort of way, where it's like, oh shit, that's
yeah,
a threat. That person is out there trying to disrupt the whole system. We got to
totally.
stamp it out. And we see that time and time
Yeah,
again in history, where people like
yeah,
that have
definitely.
just been killed. And
Yeah,
but where we're at now, that overt sort of um, stamping out of any of that sort of light that's emerging, I see it as largely having been done away with. And so we're just watching the remaining pieces fall into place to where people truly do get that choice. Which way do you want to go? Which is
yeah,
the first opportunity we've really had. I mean, we've always had the opportunity to choose, but now it's like pretty free and available. It's pretty open. Anyone gets
yeah,
to go whichever way they want to. But it certainly was a process, and it took a lot of introspection to figure out, like, and a lot of taking ownership, and that's why at the beginning, and as I always say, like, it has to start with the diet. Like, we have to start with diet as our foundational thing, because if we don't
mm,
clear up our internal gunk, then these parasites, which are just another manifestation of our ego, are going to be able to guide us and control us and keep us rooted in this sort of organized society kind of way. So we have to address these parasites first. We have to address these cravings and all of this gunk that we've accumulated, because without that, I can't experience that clarity of even knowing what the hell to do to get away from it all. So it has to be
right.
that foundational step in order to grow even further.
Where would you see yourself growing to? Like, what's your eventual goal?
There's no limit. That's the exciting part about it. It's just a journey to keep
Uh,
going and expanding. And when we truly reach our, I mean, there is no highest potential, but when we continue stepping into higher forms of potential, it only makes sense that our bodies are designed to live hundreds, if not thousands of years. Like, there's no reason that we have to die so early, and there's no reason that we have to experience this physical reality for such a short amount of time, because ultimately death is a choice. And so the more that we step into this level of purity and stop toxifying ourselves, and we can experience these things. And these are
mm,
the lies that have been hidden from us for so long, to teach us that, oh, we have to die by this amount of by this age, and no one lives longer than that. But it's all a lie. It's all a lie, because they've distorted every single aspect of our history books to get us to this point anyway, and kept us away from this way of being in this lifestyle for so long, that there hasn't really been anyone who's done it on a regular basis. I mean, and so now we're having more people emerging, which is just showing the transition of this sort of the collective consciousness and how we're shifting through all of this. The only reason that people like yourself are being attracted to this, and people like Kasey are being attracted to this, and people like myself are being attracted to this idea, is because we're shifting. Like, the astrological clock of this creation is always turning. It's always moving about in different eras and different timelines. And so as this clock shifts, it's kind of activating layers of our consciousness that have been laying dormant for so long, because we were meant to play out this realm of the experience for a certain duration, just to see what it was like. So we said,
mm,
okay, what would it be like to be enslaved for 2,000 years or a whole era? And they're like, okay, well, let's experience that. So we did. But now we're like rising out of that, and it's like, okay, I'm done with that game. I've played it long enough. Let's try another one, and let's see what that's like to step outside of that. And so there's no real limit to the way that our consciousness can expand and where it can take us to. It's all yeah, it's all just a progression. And so for me personally, I'm just here for the ride, and I'm just gonna wake up each day and say, hey, what can I do better today, and how can I yeah, just enjoy it too, you know, not get too fixated on an outcome or an end state or any way of being, but just enjoy every moment and be here for the ride.
Cool, man. I like that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I have a question though. Like, what do you know about numerology? Like, ever since like opening up to this lifestyle, but also getting to know specific things about the world and finding my vision and where I want to go. Like, I have recurring numbers like every single day and stuff like that. Like, what do you know about that? Or do you know
Yeah.
anything about that?
So that you can get into more specifics to them, but recurring numbers are definitely signs from God to just kind of like remind you of something or indicate that
Uh-huh.
you're on the right path. And so a lot of people see 1111, which 11 is our temple. So this is Solomon's temple, which is referenced in the Bible, but it's our temple within. And that's why when we truly
Mm.
purify Solomon's temple, we can connect with God. And so seeing that 1111 is just kind of like an indication from God that you're on the right path. And that's why 9/11 was such a big evil plan for them, because it was the striking down of that 11, which is our connection with God. It was a very symbolic ritual to destroy our spiritual connection with God, um, as a sacrifice of sorts. And the nine is also that's God consciousness. So nine is one of the most powerful numbers. Uh, just and I don't have a ton of knowledge on the matter, but I know that the nine, it's fascinating because if you take nine multiple of anything and then you reduce those numbers, so like 9 times whatever, take that number, add all the digits together and reduce it down to 9, or reduce it down to a whole number, it always comes out to 9. So 9 is just like this very,
Interesting.
very fixated, very powerful number that shows up all the time. So yeah, I could go into a little bit more. I mean, one is the Father, two is the Mother, and three is the child, which that's the true Trinity. That's like the Trinity that's taught within the church is a very distorted version of this. They call it the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is distorted because it removes the mother out of the equation. But Mother Earth is very much a part of this. So first came the Father,
Mm.
the Creator, and then two came the Mother, and then we are the child. And what we're here to do is to sort of like unite heaven and earth, and Mother being Earth, and heaven being the Father. So we're here to walk as this three, to bring both of those back together again. And that's kind of the experience here on this physical plane that we chose to experience as we left singularity to experience duality. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, it's a big topic. I
Cool, man.
like I
Cool.
said,
I also heard you mention like the Bible and you reference too. Like, what's your take on like religion? Because you mentioned the Bible in like Revelation.
mhm.
Um, like, what's your take on the Bible in itself, like the book and the meaning and whatever? Of
Yeah, so
course, big
religion is one.
question, but
Yeah, religion is definitely the most evil thing, or one of the most evil things that's ever been perpetrated on humanity. It's this
Mm,
idea that you can take our innate spirituality, our innate connection with the divine, and put it behind closed doors and make men in dresses have to be in charge of it, and you have to pay them all sorts of money. And um,
yeah.
so religions are quite evil, but um, the books, the ancient texts, are very truthful. So like the Bible, and
Mm,
it's not isolated to the Bible by any means. It's all of these ancient texts are all telling this one same story, which is our story. It's our journey. It's the hero's journey. It's going through, I mean, the Bible specifically goes from the Old Testament, and it goes pretty clearly through the 7 chakras. So it starts in the Old Testament, and then the Old Testament's all about like sacrifice and war and things of that nature, which are our lower animalistic sort of carnal chakras. And then And then Jesus enters the scene on the heart plane, the middle way, and to show that middle path of what to walk and how to balance those two realms. And then it goes further higher into how does Jesus demonstrate this path of going into the etheric realms, which is going and being crucified, which is not literally being nailed to a cross, but it's an allegory for crossing the fiction, which is going from throat chakra into the third ventricle, which is where the sixth chakra, the pineal, sits. And so he did this rebirth, this resurrection, where he essentially, and this is what we're all supposed to do. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's supposed to be embodied by us. We're supposed to let go of our egotistical physical self, let that die, experience that death and rebirth. And that's where you start to go into even higher levels of consciousness. So and I love in the Bible how it talks about the baptism of water being important. And this is what we're talking about here, which is that purity of the food and purity of what we consume. And that has to be done first. You have to start with the baptism of water. But then Jesus comes in and teaches about the baptism of fire, which is that higher level, which is incorporating the breath work into also letting go of the egoic desires, so taking no thought. And that's why Jesus reiterated over and over again to take no thought for your life, because thought is ego form. And the more that we are thinking all the time, the more that we're just letting the ego take the reins instead of being that observer and letting that divine consciousness, God, lead us wherever it can. And when we truly do experience that ultimate surrender of like, I'm not going to take any thought, I'm just going to let God lead me, then that's when you go into these higher levels of consciousness. That so it's basically, the Bible is basically a manual for us to follow. Like how do you win this game? Same with the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic texts, and same with all of these ancient texts. They're all teaching the same sort of story of how do you beat this game. You know, we came here to experience something. We came here to grow in levels of ascension. How do you do that? And so religion saw that, and because they don't want anyone to grow anywhere, because the best slaves are the ones that are kept down and never realizing their full potential, they came and they said, okay, let's hijack all of these texts and let's teach them wrongly and make sure that no one ever figures out their true story and true meaning. So yeah, anytime that anyone starts to talk about the truth behind it, like the Gnostics or the drawing a blank on other names, but or the Essenes, like they're always very criticized by the church because they taught the true story. They taught it allegorically, not historically and literally. They're not literal books. They're not historical books. They're allegorical representations of ourselves and our battle between our right brain and our left brain, which is our ego and our highest self, or our connection with God. And that's all it is. So I hope that makes sense. That's kind of a lot to go through.
Thankfully, it's just a short read here, just a tiny book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
I just ordered it. I am going to read it. And like my girlfriend's Buddhist, so she has like all her teachings. I'm going to read them both. Why not? Like they all have something to teach. Like it's why they try to divide us like through our religions. Oh, no, this is the right one. And I don't know, they're all like good news.
Yeah, well, once we step back into this realm of truth, where because the only reason that the Bible is written in these kind of allegorical parables is because it had to protect itself. Because if it was written just plainly and openly, then the cabal would have just burned it all and made it illegal and never allowed anyone to view it. So it has to encode these layers into it for people who are truly seeking to find it. But as we step into this sort of more truth oriented version of society, it's going to be able to be written a lot more plainly and clearly. And I'm looking forward to people like Santos Bonacci or Charlie or whomever writing books that are just going to like merge so many of these concepts into simple, digestible, like, hey, this is really all this is all you need to look at. And then we can bypass these sort of confusing steps on how to get there. But until then, we've got to work with what we've got, and these are the sort of like
Mm,
keys that have been left for us to find, so that we can rediscover ourselves and step back into this.
cool.
Do you
It's
have
all
any
just
Interesting.
tips
Like,
just on
I was
how to
going to ask the
read
same
that?
thing.
Like, how do we decode this message then? Like, I know I saw
It's
your
also interesting. It
series.
says like the 1600th edition or something on that thing. Like, how many editions does the Bible have by now?
Mhm. Yeah, there are a lot of translations, and it's the King James Version 1611 is arguably the clearest translation. It still is going to have some distortion from the original text, but it is overall a very pure representation of what you can get out of it. But as far as tips on how to read it, I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult. Like, it's difficult for me, and I know that the more that I step into this food journey and gain clarity in that sort of way, it does become a little bit easier for me to pick out different things. And um, but I'm not nearly at the level of Charlie of being able to just be like, oh yeah, that's that, and this numbers mean this, and this is how this all fits together. So I'm looking to just continue to expand and grow into that. And I think it's one of those things where it's like detox. We shouldn't be looking for some sort of end goal conclusion, but really just enjoying each part of the journey. Because if you pick it up now, you're supposed to get exactly what you get out of it. Like, whatever you read and whatever you interpret is exactly the message for you. And there's so many layers within these books that it's kind of perfect that way. So whatever part of the path you're on, you're going to get what you need to. And it's just having that trust within this, trust with God, or trust with this infinite consciousness that we're all connected to, because that's all God really wants. For that's all that we really want. Like, we're part of this infinite consciousness that's split into infinite number of ways, but all we really want to do is just continue to expand and grow. So if we can get our ego out of the way and just listen to that expansive infinite consciousness, it's only going to lead us to that space of maximum growth. It's only going to lead us to wherever we need to be in any particular moment. So with reading things like that, if I'm thinking really hard and if I'm really trying to get something out of it, like, well, I'm letting ego kind of step in and trying to figure out things a little bit too much. But if I trust it and just read it, and then I'll get the message that I'm supposed to get. And if it gets frustrating, then maybe I'm supposed to put it aside, and maybe it's not the time for that. But just having that trust that you'll get what you need to in any particular time, not trying to go too hard at it or just read it just for the sake of reading it. Because there are plenty of Christians who say that they've read the Bible, and then they still go to church all the time and pay money to these priests, and it's like, it doesn't take much reading. Like, have you read the book of Matthew? Because they get into it, Jesus gets into it so clearly, how much disdain he has for the churches, how much disdain he has for the priests and the Pharisees and the lawyers and all of these scribes and people that try and hijack the word of God and push it some other way. So how can you support a church and claim that you've read this book? It's like they're very contradictory in that sort of way. Um, so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Well, I'm the one thing I'm confused about, because I've watched a bunch of your series decoding the Bible, and then I've heard Charlie Freak talk. Is Jesus a man or an allegory? Like, what is Jesus?
Yeah.
Who is Jesus? Was
he,
he real?
I think that Jeshua was a real man, but I don't think it was just one man. Like, I think there's this amalgamation character that keeps showing up over and over and over again in our history, and we've probably been lied to about how many times this character, and it's us. Like, we all have the opportunity to become Jesus Christ. We all have the opportunity, and we're supposed to be. We're supposed to, like, embody this Christed being, because when we acknowledge who we truly are, which is children of God, then of course we can step into these higher levels of ways of being. And um, So the the books in the Bible are not literal. I don't think there was. I mean, there's very the evidence that they present to show that this man existed 2,000 years ago is very, very loose at best and very questionable. And the whole literal interpretation of the Bible is very much pushed by organized society, pushed by the church, because it keeps people from experiencing the truth behind it, which is that it's all allegorical and that we take it on um, internally and we embody it instead of just it's this separate thing that we just view and worship. And as long as you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, then you're good to go, which is passive. Like that's passive. And we need to be actually stepping forward and saying, you know what, this book is describing things to do. It's describing ways of being. It's describing like how to become a better person. It's describing how to purify the body. You know, you don't put new wine in an old wine vessel. That's an allegory for you can't be expecting to have health if your wine vessel is shit. You have to purify. You have to fix yourself in order to actually grow and um, step into that. So part of what the Bible is teaching is like you got to get off your ass and do some shit and follow this path. You know, Jesus is the way. He's the only way, but it's not that it's this one specific entity, but it's the same path that Buddha followed, that Krishna followed. It's the same path that we have to all recognize and step onto. It is the one path. And if we ignore it, then we're just going to continue going around and around and around the wheel of samsara, which is the wheel of karma, which means we'll just keep reincarnating in these forms until we decide that we've learned enough and we've chosen to go on a different path. And this is the path to get out of it. So it again, it's the handbook to this game. It's the way to beat it. And they don't want us to beat it. Organized society does not want us to beat the game, because as soon as we start beating this game, then they can't control us anymore. We are outside of their realm. So they do everything they can to attack it. Anytime that anyone does start to beat the game a little too much, they just kill them or get rid of them or whatever else. And that's happened time and time
Mhm.
and again. But now we're at a pivotal time in history where they aren't able to do that anymore. Like they aren't able to. So it's like the veil is lifting. The limitations are lifting as well. So we get to step back into this, and it's all by
Yeah,
design. Like it's all just this fun game of experience that we're playing, and we experience it one way for a while, and let's experience another.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
let's continue playing the game. Just
Yeah,
eat lots
Well,
of
funny that.
cheese, and when you're in pain, we have a TV to watch. Don't pay attention to your feelings, and then we can
Bread
get
and circus.
vaccinated. Yeah.
I was wondering, Casey, like you mentioned your girlfriend being Buddhist, right?
Mhm.
What are her views on what you are doing now? Like, how does she interpret that? Because Buddhism also practices fasting, right?
Yeah, Buddhism has like a lot of the truths. It's got the flat earth map in there with Mount Meru, and yeah, she's all on board. She's been like vegetarian most of her life, and she's on with me with the juice fasting kind of. She's doing her own kind of thing with it, like juicing a lot. And yeah, she believes, but she's also into like Chinese medicine and stuff. So they think a little
I see.
differently, but she's seen the results I'm getting. And so she's super curious and started juicing now. And she makes like 2 to 4 liters a day. Like she's mostly on a juice fast, but she's tried to go like full days and feels she needs something, like just a little bit of rice, something. So she's kind of mixing
Mhm.
it and doing her own thing. But yeah, she's happy with it. She laughed at me in Thailand when I was on the beef cleanse. I called it. I'm on a beef cleanse now, and she just laughed. Like a lot of people on my channel say, like, "Oh, your girlfriend, she's the one that made you go vegan again. She controls him." Like I hear all these comments, and like she's so kind and understanding. Like it's nothing like that.
It's cool and nice to have someone like that in your life.
Yeah, I'm so lucky to have her. She's perfect. We met on 30 bananas a day. That we're both like on that site for some reason, and we're not there now. Like it was the perfect time to be on that site, and we just met up, and it was like love at first sight, and it's perfect.
Nice. Did you guys eat bananas together?
Yeah, I think our first date, I brought some mangoes and maple syrup, and she had some, and we just went to a little park, high park down here, and yeah, it was fun. It's really fun.
Mr. Romance.
Yeah, yeah. She's an acupuncturist, so she gets some results. She found like there's traditional acupuncture is I kind of look at it like cabal training, like it doesn't work very well. Like that's the mainstream version of it. But then she found this guy, Dr. Tan, who just like, what are you guys doing? No, like you just need a couple simple points and you get results immediately. Like people go in there with shoulder pain and she's like, okay, that's probably this channel, puts one needle in your head and she's like, where's your pain now? And she's like, what? It's gone. What? Okay, let's work on that point. So yeah, she's doing great things. And I feel like we could
Cool, man.
heal people together. Like, okay, I teach them the diet stuff and she's got the acupuncture and yeah, it's cool. There's so many different ways to heal yourself. It's not all diet.
Cool, man. What did you feel like you documenting everything online, like on YouTube and everything? And how did you feel about that?
She's she's interested how open I am with my life. And she's definitely not like she doesn't want to be on the channel as much. She used to be in some videos, but like I used to get all these haters and they're like hating on her. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? And so she sees that and she's like, oh man, I don't want any part of that. So yeah, she doesn't want to share her whole life online. I don't mind. That's what I'm here to do, I guess. Just share it all. Like I have nothing to hide. So it's nothing to me. It's funny. Like all my downsides, all the embarrassing things to happen. If I can make someone laugh with that, like I can cheer somebody up, I'll take the fall. I'll look like a moron
Yeah.
if it helps you feel better about your life. So it's all good to me.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
How
well,
do
we
you come up
appreciate.
with these little like you have these awkward moments in your videos? Are they like staged, or is it just you just figuring out like I have no idea what to talk about now, so let's just roll with it?
100% improv. I have no idea what I'm about to
Uh,
say, even as I'm talking sometimes. It's just coming. And I do these little skits and this, I have no idea what I'm about to say. That's how my mind works. It's like I don't plan anything. I've wrote the odd script for videos like a long time ago, and you can tell when I'm reading something and it's just like footage playing. But yeah, everything is just improv and all. Like sometimes I'll write some notes of things I want to cover in a video, but it's mostly just be a moron.
Yeah, I always love. I imagine it's the same with your thumbs up and thumbs down at the end. It's just right there on the spot. You just make that up.
Yeah, like I panic doing that. I'm like, oh God, what am I gonna say? I have no idea. Like it's just, and most of sometimes it happens, and like once the one idea comes, it's like okay, and then I can roll with it. I'm good at like improving when I have an idea, but sometimes it's coming up with that first idea that I get stuck in, and I panic, and I'm like, oh God, that was terrible. But yeah,
Funny.
yeah,
Do
it's
you feel
fun.
like having like a different impact now with your channel, like spreading what you're doing now? And do you feel like you have more of an impact that way? Because before you did it before, and then you had like this sort of not great experience with it, you went all the other way. And now you're reaching a lot of people with it again, but differently.
Yeah, like I feel bad before because I know I've turned a lot of people carnivore, like, and they
You
improved,
did.
they think. So like they feel better, that's nice, but I think it's long-term damage and I'm trying to get them back on the path and they're kind of stuck there. So yeah, a lot of my past experiments have not ended well, but like I started the journey with the raw vegan message. That was my thing. It was taken way too long. And if I would have just stuck with the juice fast and stopped, but you have to work through these things, like all these emotional connections we have to food. Like I still had all those and I needed that comfort. And whereas I feel like I have zero need for that now. This juice fast has brought out a lot. Like I crave nothing. We'll see what happens when I start eating. Maybe that will trigger a bunch of stuff and then that'll be the new journey. But this feels like the right message and it's easier than I thought it was. The juice fasting and you get results faster. Where all the raw vegans fail, you're not going to fail on this. It might be hard, but it's not as hard as you think. And once you start doing it, it's like, this is my life now. For now, it's like easy. Make juice, drink it, you're done. Like, it's probably easier than preparing food in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Do you feel like you discovered? Oh, you go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, do you feel like you'll continue to like cycle juice fasting in occasionally, or do you think this is like your one and done? You want to just make it your long one and never go back to it again? Or, I mean, I guess that's planning, but just curious on your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think part of me wants to like complete it right now and like get all the junk out and then start fresh, but I don't think it's going to happen like that. And I think it's like a lifelong journey anyway. Like, you want to be constantly cleansing at some point. Like, you eat for a bit, rebuild, and then go to a juice fast, eat again, and like go to a water fast this time. And like, I think it's a continual journey where we just continue to cleanse. Like, this is the path. Detox is the path, but don't stay in it too long. Some people stay there so long and they don't ever work out or do anything. You think rest is your ultimate solution and you just lay in a bed and you got no muscle whatsoever. Like, you have no reserves. I feel like having some muscle is like, I feel so much more energy just building up the body a bit, like being stronger.
Mhm.
It's not only
Yeah.
physical strength, it's like strength to fight disease as well. I feel like it's just a huskier body. So people get too, I thought like, oh, you have to rest, like your body's going to work on healing. So don't do anything that takes energy. Just sit, do nothing. Like, that's not the answer for a little bit. Like, some people are so tired they can't get out of bed. Like, there's points where you have to rest, and but try to be active if you can. Go for walks and slowly build up, and it's a balance. But yeah, continue that cleansing. That's the plan. Just, I'm not going to stop here, and I'm going to do my own fast next time. Like, this has been, I want my 90 days, so I did 100% juice fast. There's nothing anybody can take away from me on that. I got it in. But next
Yeah.
one's going to be like, okay, I'm doing a juice fast with one fruit meal a week or something. And this is, oh, wow, look at that. It's so much better than an actual juice fast if you just have that one or two fruit meals a week. So I'm just going to, now, once I have my number, it's done, just develop my own thing. And that's what I've always wanted, just have my own path.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you I appreciate both of y'all for documenting things so well and on these different experiments that y'all do. It's very beneficial. It's very helpful for others, and um, yeah, that's a great thing to share.
Yeah, definitely. I just appreciate Kasey just bringing it to so many people, right? Like that reach and then actually doing it. And there's a lot of hate coming your way, but you're still doing it. So that's something to talk about for sure.
Yeah, it's easy. There's a button called hide user from channel. Boom. Oh, look at that. Oh, what happened to you? I thought you were about to hate on me for a while.
Bye
Oh,
bye.
you're
Bye
still
bye.
commenting. I find it funny because some people just want to hate. And so it's like, okay, I've heard enough of you. Hide. Usually I ban a bunch of people and then I unban everybody and let them back. But I don't know that I want them back. Like, I keep getting amazing insights from my audience, and I don't want to weed through a bunch of haters that are just there to bring
Yeah.
me down. Like, I keep learning. The other day someone said, oh, have you seen the Nephilim? It's like, what? There's a Nephilim on film, like a big giant. I think it's real. There's Flat Earth Truther has this video, and it's like 1930s footage of Japan, and there's a giant, like he's
Wow.
huge, like a horse came up to his knees, and I'm like, that's real, like that. And I Googled it, and immediately Google is trying to debunk the thing. That's how you know it's real. It's like, oh no, that's from a movie. I think the cabal saw that footage and like, we better put that in a movie. See, it's just in a movie. Like, this is real old footage of a giant freak, and there
Wow.
he's huge.
That's like, and that's just another example of how much the truth has been distorted. Because like, that's us. That's like our potential is to get back to this where we're just become fucking giants. Like, where we're living a lot longer and we grow a lot bigger, and so do other things. And yeah, there's so much. There's so much to uncover. There's so much to get back to. But that's kind of what we do in this plane of existence is we just go through these long cycles of like growing to our highest potential and then falling to our lowest potential and just back and forth and back and forth. And but yeah, I'm excited to uncover all that kind of stuff too. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's hilarious how
Truly is, yeah.
we have to experience the lowest of lows for some reason. Like, oh, what's it like to be a crackcore? Let's try. It's like can't we just view these things from a distance? Sometimes do we have to experience it all? I feel like we have to experience everything that's ever happened.
Yes.
That's
Really.
scary to me, honestly. Like, oh, what's it like? I don't even want to think of some of the things.
If you can imagine it, it has been experienced. And that's like the limitation, the only limitation to this experience is our imagination. So it's all within it. It's just this great thought
Yeah.
experiment.
And that's interesting because like I've gotten to a point now where I'm just like observing everything and seeing everything happen. I'm like, that's interesting. That's interesting, you know, but it isn't really that connected to me. It's like a separate thing that I'm just, you know, seeing happening around me. Same with the madness in the world now, but also like things like I don't take things that seriously anymore. But then sometimes I'm like, how crazy can this stuff get, right? Like, how far can it go? And then something else comes rearing around the corner. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. It can get more crazy. And like, I feel like we're all just seeing this nightmare unravel when really like nothing really can happen, right? Like, if you really think about it, it's just a body you're having an experience in, and that's about it. And then sometimes it looks so real, and sometimes I'm like, that looks legit so fake, man. This can't be real, right? Like, it's so funny, man, when you get into that point. But yeah, like he said, like how low can you go? Like some stuff on this planet is really, really low or plane or whatever you want to call it. Like, and then something even more low comes. You're like, all right, fair enough, fair enough. We can go lower.
And we had to. We wanted to experience the lowest of lows, and I kind of see that each time we go through this sort of oscillation of lows and highs, we go lower and higher each time. And so this is probably the lowest we've ever gone. And then we'll
Mm.
go higher than we've ever gone before. And then we'll experience that for a while. And they're like, okay, well, let's dive back in again. Let's go back
Let's
to the
go again.
temptation. Yeah, let's go indulge. Let's go sink even further. Let's forget everything. Let's make this even more challenging the next time we go through it. And
Yeah,
it just keeps going that way. It's all a game. It's just
yeah.
for fun.
It reminds me of like these video games I used to play where you could build like a world, or like these strategy games where you could do all kinds of things. And sometimes like when I was younger, like 18, 19, I would just be bored. So I would choose 8 computer players to battle it out against each other. Just see what happens, right? Just what will the computer do, right? Like we know they all cheat, so they're all cheating against each other and whatever. The most interesting evenings I had with video games were just, I don't play video games now anymore, was just seeing what the computer would do. It's like an
Mm.
experiment. That's how I sometimes view this life, right? Like what will happen if this or that happen, or A meets Z or whatever. Like that's how sometimes this feels like it's so interesting to see. And once you get the realization that you can just observe and then do your little thing and it will all be fine, then you can have a lot more fun with it.
Yeah,
But
it's
it can
just
still be frustrating.
yeah, well, and thank God that it is frustrating because if it felt like it was fake the whole time, well, that would be fucking boring. Like if I didn't
Yeah,
feel real pain, if I didn't feel real emotions, if I didn't feel all of that, then it would be a lot more mundane. So I appreciate the sort of color and vibrancy that it adds to the experience, and the fact that
yeah,
death seems so real even though it's so fake. Like it's not a real thing, but because it seems real, it makes me take a lot better care of this physical body and take a lot more care of what happens to it, which adds a layer of vibrancy to this experience as well. And so it's all by design. These challenges are just here to give us another sort of like parameter to bounce off of, so that we're not just yeah to make the game more interesting. It's all designed for
yeah.
that.
It's
Yeah, well, if
funny.
you would know everything about it, right, then there would be no point to this life. So it has to be
Exactly.
like shrouded in mysteries and things to learn. Otherwise, it would be really boring.
Yeah, exactly.
part of me wishes there was like a cheat code and we could remember everything and just, can I have like a play life where I know everything and go through just as a hero and I'm saving people. And but like I used to play a lot of video games too, and the cheat code always sucked. Like you think, okay, I'm all powerful and mighty now. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
actually really boring. So yeah, the challenge is the interesting part, and we're in some interesting challenges now.
Yeah, you could say that.
I sold a lens the other day, and like I sell it online, and someone will come meet me, and they always show up in masks. This guy showed up in 2 masks the other day with a "I love Putin"
masks.
sign on the. I was like, oh boy. And then another guy, he's like, oh, don't worry, I'm vaccinated. I'm like, I'm more worried now that you are.
Get out of the
Like,
way.
what is that supposed to save me or something? It's like, oh, it's a strange world, but
It really is.
People are wearing 2 masks, like 2 masks at the same time.
yeah, double mask, some with a double. I got some footage. I don't want to post it, but like I saw this woman
You should.
in a store, and she had 2 masks, a face shield, and rubber gloves, just using a printer. Like she wanted to copy some things, and I was like, oh my God, like they really have made people afraid, and it's insane.
It
It's
is.
insane.
That's sick,
It is
man.
insane.
You know, sometimes I go into like a supermarket and people just like try to like take another aisle because they don't want to be like close to you or something. It's interesting. There's also like here in Spain, like in a couple of days, they finally gonna get rid of the mandatory masks on the street, and like people here just religiously use it. Like everybody wears it, and I'm just curious what's gonna happen. Like, are people still gonna wear it or not? Because there's no risk of a fine anymore. You know, I'm just really curious what will happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
that's weird.
that's why the mask thing is perfect for what we need it to do, which is to show where people are and who's ready
Yeah,
for that insanity and who's ready to move on past
yeah.
it. And it's surprising a lot of people were ready to just jump right into that complacency and like, oh, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But here we
I
are.
remember like these videos on YouTube, like there was like this concept like clown world or something, and they would just make this honking meme like, oh, we're in the clown world, and then you see all these stupid things happening. And I'm like, yeah, this is basically a clown world to some degrees, but it can also be this very beautiful and like nice thing that doesn't have to do anything with that. And it's all just your own perception. And once you realize that, like you can make anything out of this life, right? Like my parents and everything and my family and friends that were like when they heard I was traveling, they thought I was signing my own death warrant, you know?
Mm.
Like you're gonna get COVID and you're gonna die, then you're gonna do this. Like I've been traveling the world for like over half a year now, and they're still like, no, I can't travel, I can't go out of my. I'm like, come on, man. Like the world is just there as long as you just engage with it.
Right. Always has been.
Yeah.
But hey, guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kasey.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I finally saw somebody in a grocery store without a mask on. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's my hero. Like just an older Asian woman
Oh my
walked in, no
God.
mask. I was like, what? Like everybody, always. I'm always the only one without a mask. I had a cashier refuse to serve me. She's like, I'm sorry, I can't serve you without a mask. And I was like, oh my God.
Like you're touching
Touch
all of
just like
this
the
money.
groceries that you.
Yeah.
This makes no sense, but
Makes no
in the
sense.
Netherlands, like I was in the Netherlands for a month, like in April, and there's no mandatory mask on the street, and you have to wear it in like the stores and stuff. I just walked in without, nobody said anything, and I also saw cashiers not wearing, and like people like it's like only if you choose to do it, but you see weird shit, man. Like it's really strange. Like people too mask. I haven't heard of that. That's insane, man. Funny though.
I've seen full-on gas masks. It's really crazy.
Really,
Yeah.
man. No, I have not seen that. I've seen people like walking around like gelling up their hands all the single time, and as soon as they look around, they gel it up again. Like their skin must be tearing off, and there's only bones in their hand or something like that. Man, oh man.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, we came on the 2-hour mark. So I want to give everyone an opportunity to go around and say some closing comments. This has been just an absolutely fantastic conversation. I really appreciate every minute of it. So thank you all for being here. We'll start with you, Nathan. You got any closing comments for us, or want to talk about yourself in any way?
Well, I love being here, man. Like, thank you for having me. It was
Of
such a
course.
wonderful conversation, and
Yeah.
getting to know you guys, and also learning stuff from you. And I would encourage anyone watching this and feeling like they want to change something in their life or they want to go somewhere in their life, go for it. Do it. I mean, there's a saying in Dutch like, you have no, but you can make it a yes. So you always get a no, but you can turn it into a yes. So if you want to change your lifestyle, whatever, go, man. There's information out there everywhere. Kasey's putting out good stuff. So many people are good putting out good stuff. If you need help, go find it. But if you want to go somewhere, just do it. If you can get it in here, you can do it. So you have your own life in your hands, and you can like make it from what you want from it, man. So go for it. If you feel like it, do it.
Beautifully said. Awesome. Kasey, what you got for us?
I suggest that everybody just clean out the body to tap into your intuition. I find it strengthens your intuition so much more, so you can decipher what the truth is. And once you're like cleaner and you're operating, things become less confusing out there. Like we're bombarded with lies here and there and what to drink and what to eat. It's like tap in, just you can do it. Don't worry too much. And yeah, that's my main message, because that's what I'm noticing. And just do the right thing. Just do what feels right to you. Like, what would Jesus do?
Exactly.
Like just the other day, there was a man yelling at this woman at Loblaws, and usually I'm kind of passive. I'm not gonna, but it was like, you could break that up, like go do that. And I was like, yeah. And he said something. I was like, yeah, it is kind of rude, leave her alone. And it felt good. Like just stand up for your fellow human being. If you see someone struggling, like do the right thing. You know what's right inside. And maybe we don't feel it if we're like super sick and we just don't care about anything but ourselves. But once you start getting healthy, you just become braver and like tapping into your intuition.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, I would like to add to that, like, if you want to change anything in the world, just start with yourself and then you change everything around you one step at a time.
Beautiful.
Beautifully
Yeah.
said, man.
Yeah. Beautiful. And it does start with that. It starts with that foundation, and then everything else just flows. We're able to step into the higher forms of ourselves. And there's no limit to it. There's no stopping to it. We just keep going and going as high as we want to go. That's the exciting part about it. So Kasey will get to step into that superhero form and do that, have that and play that experience as long as he wants to at some point. Maybe not in this body, maybe in this body, who knows? But he'll get to experience that, and we all will get to experience those highest
He's already
levels.
doing amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, just again wanted to thank you both for being here today. Both of these guys are tremendous resources to reach out to ask any questions. If you have anything, I'm always available too. If you have any need any extra support, and that's what's so important to remember is we don't have to go through this alone. I mean, we do ultimately have to make the decision alone and have that gusto to step out on that limb, but we can reach out for support, and we do have support all around us. So don't hesitate to reach out for that support wherever it may be. Find that community that you can do that with. And yeah, again, just thank you guys for being here. It was an absolute pleasure, absolute honor. And yeah, look forward to the next one.
Me too.
All right,
Me too.
guys. Love you all in the chat. Love you both. And we'll talk to you next time.
Take care.
Take care.